Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. It is your host, Mr. Karan Rose. DJ, go ahead and fade us out. DJ, go ahead and fade us out. February 28th, Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday, Digipreneur family. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope it was either restful, if that's what you needed. I hope it was exciting. I hope it was an adventure, if that is what you needed. I had a pretty good weekend. My weekend for daddy duties. So me and my son had a wonderful time. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, the theaters have finally opened back up last week for kids to be able to enter into the cinemas. So me and him were able to go and take in the Spider-Man movie, and we had a wonderful time. So for me, the weekend was definitely restful because I didn't work much, but it was also a fun time too. So we got another exciting episode, and this episode is happening. I'm doing this episode because it's a question that I have been getting asked, especially because it's early in the year. And people are still trying to tweak their schedule. We know that January, a lot of people were, taking their time to ease back into the year. February, everybody's been trying to catch up with a lot of the things that they kind of, push back on or just didn't really action in January, right? So, now everybody is in go mode right now, right? It's showtime right now. So the question that has come up quite a few times in my DMs has been, what social media platforms am I focusing on this year, and what platforms do I think, they should focus on? And, for starters, everybody's platforms, or, which platforms they decide to focus on, it's going to be different for everybody. Right? No two people should have the same social media strategy, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors that go into this, to deciding, which platform you're going to choose. Now, if there is one thing I will say is, I believe everybody's ideal client is on every single platform. The key is to figure out how are you going to tap into those people, all right? I think everybody's ideal client is on every single platform. However, how are you going to tap in to that pool of ideal clients on those platforms? And I think that is ultimately the question, that people need to answer. It's one of the hardest questions to ask yourself, because every platform is different. What works on one platform does not work on the other platforms, and that might require you to do things that, bring you way out of your comfort zone. It might require you to do things that you don't think you could be consistent with. There's just a lot, that you have to ask yourself, when you are deciding to choose which social media platforms you're going to, grow a presence on, and which platforms you are going to go hard in, right? But fundamentally, I think everybody's ideal clients is there. I believe that every single social media platform has its benefits, and they can all be worked into a overall digital strategy. But I think the number one question really comes down to, is which platform can you be consistent with? Because they all have their benefits. They all have their pros. They all have their cons. Your ideal clients are on every single platform, Don't buy into the hype that TikTok is only for Generation Y or or whatever that young generation is. No, I say that laughingly because I hear that so much. But when I think about my TikTok, when I think about everybody that I follow or every piece of content that I see, like everybody is like 30 and over. Like I'm seeing old fogies, that I follow on TikTok because they're creating useful content, right? I think TikTok is everybody's game. I don't buy into that. It's only for, that under 25 crowd. I don't buy into that at all. Nobody that I see in my feed is under 25, almost guaranteed. Everybody is up there in age, right? So I want to answer the question of which social media platforms am I focusing on for 2022? Now, this episode isn't going to be heavy on strategy, but I do kind of want to walk you through my mindset on, what I plan to do with these platforms and which platforms I'm going to be focusing on. And within that, you'll get my context, my perspective, and there will be some gems for you. There'll be a perspective for you to take into consideration, because I might see a platform a particular way that you haven't thought about it. And I mean, that's with any and everybody, right? Like one of the platforms I'm going to talk about today, I haven't even created an account. It's only because I seen a perspective on how someone is using it. And I was like, oh, damn, I could do that too. I could take that angle and work it into my strategy. Mind you, I've never even created an account. And we're going to get into that, right? So there are essentially 5 platforms that I'm going to be focusing on for the rest of 2022. And I'm going in order of the platforms that I'm going to be focusing on, and which ones I'm going to go hard in and which ones I'm kind of just going to dabble in because I understand where it fits into my overall strategy, but I might not go hard in it, but I will maintain a presence and tap into certain things of the platform. All right. So platform number 1, the social media platform number 1 that I'm going to be focusing on hardcore. And it's been this way. This has actually been one platform that I have focused on since the very beginning, since I started my business, Droid Island. That platform is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the number 1 platform that I have been focusing on since 2016, and I have no intentions of removing LinkedIn from the number 1 spot as to my focus. Now, I know there are going to be people that are saying, okay, LinkedIn, all right, I get it. Yeah, it makes sense. And there's going to be, I think the vast majority of people listening in are like, LinkedIn? What? Why? Why would that be the platform where you focus on number 1? All right, so let me give you my perspective, right? So the reason why I place so much focus on LinkedIn and why I want to place even more focus on it this year has nothing to do with growing followers. It has nothing to do with growing followers. I actually, of all the platforms, LinkedIn is the one platform I could give 2 craps about building a following, right? My following on LinkedIn is very organic, but I'm not trying to build 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. It is the one platform I'm not trying to build a large following on. I don't care about followers on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is the only social media platform where all the decision makers are. It is the only, let me repeat that. Take notes. Put an asterisk beside it. Highlight it, bold it, whatever you got to do. But take this in. Of all the social media platforms, LinkedIn is the only social media platform where every single decision maker for any company you want to do business with or even work for, if you're an employee and listening to this, LinkedIn is the only platform where all of those people are. And for the most part, they're active, they're semi-active. Even if they're not, 100% active, you could still figure out who is who and reach out to people to get where you need to go, right? So how I got started, and I'm going to let out some secret sauce here. How I was able to work with all of the companies that you have seen me work with over the years, from Digicel, B-Mobile, Huawei, Samsung, WePay, Scotiabank, Republic Bank, FCB, Loop Caribbean. How I was able to work with all of these companies is because of LinkedIn. So when I was getting started, my strategy was I knew I was creating content in the smartphone space, in the telecom space, and I was always focused on educating about how people and business owners could utilize smartphone technology to enrich their life, right? To help them, do better business and use their smartphones, or get them paired up with the right smartphones to help them achieve what they want from a tech perspective in their businesses and their personal lives. That's really what my goal was when I was blogging, right? And my mindset was, who does my content help? What companies does my content help? And my content helped the telecom industry. Well, who's in the telecom industry? The telecom providers, Digicel, Flow, B-Mobile, right? Well, here in Trinidad. And Digicel and Flow is Caribbean wide, great, even better. And then there was, the manufacturers. There was Samsung Caribbean, there is Huawei, Trinidad and Tobago, right? The digital platforms like, Loop Caribbean. Loop Caribbean has a tech section, so I know that tech content would do well on their platform. And then all of the media, the news houses, they have a technology section as well, or at least they do report on technology and what happens in it, right? So I know that I had a lot of avenues. There was companies that I could work with, and there was distribution, there was platforms that I can distribute my content on. So what I did when I got started was I made a list of all of the companies that I wanted to work with and that my content that I'm creating either helps their audience or the platform would, the platform would love to have my content. So I made a list of all of those players, right? I jump on LinkedIn. I type, and remember, this is the only platform you can do this with. I type in the company. I type in Digicel. And then I go over to the people section. I find all of the decision makers in the departments that I need. So from CEO, head of marketing, marketing specialist, everybody who is in a decision-making position, and also people that I know need to see my content because of what they do. And I connected with all of them. So I made that list, typed in the company into LinkedIn, went and looked for all the people in decision-making powers, CEOs, the heads of whatever departments that was relevant to me, and I connected with all of them. And I connected with them because I wanted to ensure that they seen my content. There was no way I was going to allow these decision makers to be walking around the entire Caribbean without knowing who Karen Rose was, without knowing who Droid Island was. There was no way. I wasn't having it. And so when I created content that was either like I knew was a big benefit for them or was highly critical of them, I would send the content to the CEO or the heads of marketing of these organizations. And then I quickly got good with everybody. And because my content was never biased, right? When a CEO would see, a negative piece of content that I did, nobody's ever got mad. Like people would, and this is funny. The CEOs of the companies never once got mad. All of the subordinates would get their panties in a knot and would freak out or reach out and say some dumb stuff or whatever. But like your boss's boss has already called me and we've had a conversation. So the CEOs of the companies have never had an issue of my good content or the bad content. But what I loved was that the bad content, the CEOs would reach out, and I'm talking about, some of the biggest companies across the region. The CEOs or the main heads of departments would reach out and be like, hey, just read your article on X, Y, and Z. Let me explain, what has happened as to why this is a negative experience or why this is bad that is happening. Let me just give you our experience, and then you can kind of understand, what is going on. Right. And I really appreciated that from a couple CEOs. There's a couple CEOs of some of the biggest companies that I always enjoyed our chats with respects to the negative content that I created about their company, because they would reach out and be like, hey, this is what's going on. You're right. What you said does happen. Or they would reach out and be like, I did not know this was happening. Let's get on it. And let me go talk to my team and figure out what is going on. So I've been able to maintain, very, very good relations with everybody in the telecom space because I tried to be as unbiased as possible. Sometimes, there are times where I get passionate, but at the end of the day, this is still media, right? And you still gotta create things that people even want to read or watch or whatever, right? But I always tried to remain unbiased as possible and get as much of the facts out when I was producing my content. So I use LinkedIn as the place where I connect with all of the decision makers. And because LinkedIn is the only platform, period, where all of the decision makers for every single company that you want to do business with or work for, it's the only platform that they are there. LinkedIn could never be replaced by any other platform. It could never be replaced because when you have a small following, so when I got started and I had a small following, and people used to ask me, yo, how are you able to get sponsorships and do sponsored content with these companies and you have 1,000 followers? It's like, yeah, but I also have a thriving blog and I do YouTube videos, and the companies don't care about the following if you are working with them. They have the platforms, but they always lack the content and the information and an angle to help better their trust or their relations with their customers. If you can come to them with a win for them, if you can come to them with a win, come to them with an objective, an angle, an event, something that is a win for them, that helps them get good PR or helps them generate sales or at least leads, you can do some really good things. You can do some really good things, and that will also help build your profile. So from the jump, I was able to build my profile because I understood, if I'm already getting stamped by the largest companies in the Caribbean and I don't even have a following, and this is like back in 2016, if I'm already getting stamped by them, then, at the end of the day, the numbers don't matter. The numbers still don't matter for me now because at this point, I've worked with so many people Caribbean-wide and in the U.S. and in Canada that the following for me doesn't matter when people look at me because I have been proven, right? I've built that trust over the years, right? So LinkedIn is the number one platform. That is my perspective when it comes to LinkedIn. I really believe that everybody should have LinkedIn as their priority because everybody is in business to solve a problem. And there are companies that you could be working with to solve the mutual problem. There are companies that want to work with you, but you're so busy trying to gain followers on other platforms to be noticed or validated by the public. And if you go that route of trying to build a high following, then you have to wait for somebody in a company to notice you. And who has time for that? Nah, we go in directly to the companies. We're networking. We're making connections. We are reaching out to people, and we are trying to solve mutual problems. And even if I did not reach out to them, simply because I connected with the decision makers and they got to see my content, they would see my content and be like, oh, wow, we need this guy. We have to work with him. And either they reached out to work with me or they sent one of their peoples to reach out to me. And when their peoples reached out and they're like, hey, the CEO told me to reach out to you and da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, it was always a guarantee that you would end up working together, right? So LinkedIn is number one. Number two, the second platform that I plan on focusing on for the rest of 2022 hardcore is TikTok. So again, perspective. Again, we're not talking strategies per se. I am giving you, you know, where my thoughts are when it comes to the platforms that I am deciding to go hard on for the rest of the year. So the reason why TikTok is so high at number two is because of one major thing that happened at the end of last year. TikTok and Google announcing their agreement where TikTok is going to share their data sets with Google, and Google is going to index their short form videos, their videos. Google is going to be indexing TikTok videos. So we already know that TikTok has the highest organic reach right now, and you know it's a land grab right now because we all know how this goes. Every single social media platform before it has done the exact same thing. You know, they come out, they give you all the organic reach, and then as soon as they need to start monetizing hardcore, then the organic reach dies, and then it becomes a game of pay to play, right? So right now, TikTok is in that we're just going to be giving y'all organic reach stage. So you can go build a name on it, right? Now, TikTok to me has to be a part of a strategy, and TikTok only really made sense to me. I'm not saying in totality, but TikTok made sense to me and my digital strategy the minute that they announced that partnership where Google is going to be indexing TikTok videos, and it's already started. There are some videos that are beginning to show up. So like you could type in a question or a query on Google, and TikTok videos are showing up as a result, right? So that being said, that automatically for me clicked. And I was like, okay, this has to be a part of my strategy now because, again, my goal is to be Googleable. I don't want to be creating content that, you know, only lives on the platform, and you get into that social media rat race where you're constantly always having to create in order to grow on the platform, and, you know, your content doesn't get found beyond, you know, the first couple of days, maximum a week of you producing the content. I always want to be creating content on platforms where I get the maximum shelf life in return, where my content can be found for, you know, years after the fact that I have created the content, right? So now that TikTok is going to be getting their videos indexed by Google, for me, that was the number one thing that made me say, okay, now is the time for me to go hard on TikTok. And then because of the organic reach on TikTok, it just made even more sense. But that was number two. That was the second reason. The number one reason was the fact that Google is indexing those videos. So TikTok is going to require you to do straight video, and get creative. You know, figuring out, you know, learning about the different trends on TikTok, the different sounds being used, and ultimately just, you know, going hard in your niche. So if your thing is, you know, you're an expert or you're a specialist or whatever, and you're using that platform to educate, or you're using the platform to document your journey, whatever, listen, find whatever your angle is for TikTok and go hard once it makes sense for your overall strategy. Because as I said in the beginning, everybody's ideal client is on every single platform. The goal or the key now is, are you creative enough and are you strategic enough to learn how to extract or reach your ideal customers or ideal clients on each of these platforms? Because they're all there. But do you know how to tap into it, right? So I'm learning. And I'll give you guys this piece of info, right? So currently on TikTok, I am at, what is my numbers? I'm currently at 3,535 followers, right? February, this is the first month that I have decided to focus on TikTok. February, right? And not even all of February. Like maybe within the last 2.5 weeks. Well, 2 weeks. I've decided to like really go hard on February, but February overall is the month where I decided I'm gonna go hard on TikTok, and it's gonna be a part of my strategy. So check this out. For the month of February on TikTok, I'm just pulling up the numbers as we are talking. So for the month of February, check this out. I have grown 1,800 followers at the time of recording this, because remember, it's going to change, right? But at the time of recording this, I have gained 1,800 followers in the last 28 days with a growth rate of 273% over the last 28 days for TikTok. This is going to get very interesting when I tell you guys the numbers for Instagram. The Instagram, let me pull up the Instagram numbers. So Instagram, over the same time period, over the last month, right? I'm just pulling it up. Over the last month on Instagram, I have grown 1.9%. 1.9% on Instagram, a total of 180 followers for the last 28 days. 180 followers for the last 28 days on Instagram. 1,000 or 1,800 followers on TikTok in the last month, right? So TikTok with its right now, again, they're giving away organic reach over on that platform. They are indexing the video, or Google is indexing the videos for it to show up. So remember, your content can last so much longer now. Now somebody can type in a question, 2 years later, and a TikTok video comes up as a result to answer that person's question if you've answered that, if your video fits whatever that query is, right? So that's a big part of the digital strategy, and that's why TikTok for me is number 2 on the list, all right? And again, that growth rate is wow. And that's just counting, right? Anywho, number 3, Pinterest. Pinterest is the third platform that I'm going to be focusing on. Now, here's the interesting thing about Pinterest. I don't have too much to say about Pinterest because Pinterest is the platform I have never even created an account on. I have zero idea about Pinterest, but Pinterest is the platform that I'm going to be learning this year. And the reason why is because a few creatives, not creatives, well, they are creatives, but a few SEO specialists who create content have been sounding the alarm on Pinterest and how Pinterest, and this has been for years, but it just never really, I wasn't in the right place to even think about another platform, but I am now, right? So the SEO specialists that I follow, the search engine optimization specialists that I follow, have been harping on Pinterest and how much traffic Pinterest generates to their websites. From as far as I know, from everybody that I follow, of all social media platforms, Pinterest is the number one social media platform that drives traffic back to people's websites of the SEO specialists, right? And I follow the SEO specialists religiously because they are the ones that are talking about data. They are the ones talking about platforms from a technical perspective, talking about how to drive traffic to platforms that you own and not just creating crap on social media for it to stay there and die after a couple of days, right? So I will listen to an SEO specialist talk about content 1,000 times over, just a social media marketing expert. Because social media marketing experts tend to only care about, how you grow on that platform. SEO specialists who are focused on driving traffic or extracting traffic from social media and driving it to platforms that you own, I will always follow them because the goal is to take the traffic and subscribers from these platforms, social media. We don't own none of them. And bring these people to platforms that we own, or we can start to collect the data on our audience, or we can turn them into email subscribers or SMS subscribers or push notification subscribers into assets that we actually own. And then because we're in the Caribbean and we have no e-commerce tools integrated into any social media platform, bringing these people from social media to your website, that is where they're going to be able to make the purchases, right? We don't have e-commerce on social media in the Caribbean. We don't. So the e-commerce, the purchases have to happen on your website. So that being said, we need to learn how to drive traffic from social media to our websites. And SEO specialists always give the best content on how to do that by far. And when the people that I follow are preaching Pinterest, and Pinterest is the number one platform driving traffic back to websites or the assets that we own, yeah, it's time. I don't even have an account, but it's time. It's time for me to go and figure out Pinterest. I know some of you guys are thinking, oh my God, another platform to learn? Well, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is, right? Attention is the currency. Figuring out how to get the attention on each of these platforms, how to drive traffic to the assets that we own, how to use these platforms to tap into our ideal clients. That is all part of the job. And unfortunately, it changes all the time. Your digital strategy has to be fluid. It's ever changing. Never get comfortable, right? So Pinterest, I have no account for. I've never even downloaded Pinterest. The only reason I even know what the Pinterest icon looks like is because I've had phones where Pinterest was preloaded. So I'm going to download Pinterest. I am going to start learning Pinterest. I've already started to follow some Pinterest experts to, figure out, what this platform is about. And the funny thing is, the Pinterest experts that I have been following are all focused on how Pinterest drives the most traffic and leads and sales to their website. So that's music to my ears already, right? That's already music to my ears. So that's why Pinterest for me is going to be number 3, all right? So number 4, the fourth social media platform that I'm going to be focusing on for 2022 is IG, Instagram. Now, Instagram is so low on my list because it's at number 4, is because Instagram is, remember, I'm not talking strategy. I'm giving you my perspective on the platform, right? For me, Instagram makes things very difficult when it comes to driving traffic to platforms that we own and also to purchase products, right? I'm not about the DM for price, DM. Like, I'm about, hit a link, go to my website, purchase a product, book a session, whatever, right? I'm about that. And because Instagram makes it the hardest, where, again, remember, in the posts, when you're creating content for your feed, there is no way to, well, especially in the Caribbean, because in the other markets have things like product tagging. They have Instagram shopping. So these people can purchase products and services directly on the Instagram platform. For us in the Caribbean that we have no access to Instagram shopping or product tagging or any of these things, we can only tell people to go hit the link in our bio, and then they need to go and find the link that they want to go to, then go to the link. It brings them to the website and whatever. That's a lot for most people, where every platform is trying to simplify the buying on the platform, right? So Instagram is the hardest platform to drive traffic to where you want it to go, right? Instagram is still pretty versatile, so there's a lot of different types of content you could put out. You could still put out your static photos. You could put out your carousels. You could put out your video content. We now got Reels in the Caribbean in December, so you can now do Reels, and Reels are gonna get you a bit more traffic or a bit more views than just posting a video or a regular video on Instagram. All right, I utilize Instagram stories. Instagram stories is one place where I utilize the most, because I like to give so much of my behind the scenes as to, what I do or how I do it. So if you follow me over on Instagram and you're watching my stories, there's a lot of things that I charge people for, or you have to come in, jump in a workshop to learn, that you could learn from just watching my Instagram stories, because I document what I do all the time. Like, I'm always showing what I do through my Instagram stories. I give you guys behind the scenes of my life, of what I do businessly, from a business perspective and personally. Like, I document my journey through Instagram stories. So Instagram stories is always going to be a place that I use, right? I've started to use Reels a lot more, and I've been testing this month to see, where am I getting the most traction with short form video? Am I getting more traction via TikTok, or am I getting more traction via Reels? And so far over the last month, I've already told you the numbers in terms of my overall growth in the platforms. But what I've noticed is that on TikTok, the videos that have the highest views and the highest engagement have happened on TikTok. But the more consistent engagement and views have happened on Instagram Reels. So on Instagram Reels, I'm getting, between 1,000 to 3,000 views on the video. I'm getting a couple hundred likes, comments, and whatnot, right? But I don't think I have a video that's done more than 4,000 views. I don't think so. I'm quickly trying to scroll through and look, and yeah, I don't have a video. I don't have a reel. I have one reel on Instagram that has done 2. I have 2 videos. I have 2 reels that have done more than 8,000 views. I have a couple videos in 4,000, and then the rest of them are at that 1,000 view mark, right? So I'm getting the consistency in terms of views. Anything over 1,000 to 2,000 views is good for me. I'm happy with that, right? In terms of a minimum. So I'm getting the consistency of the views on Instagram Reels, but on TikTok, I have videos that have crossed 40,000 views, 30,000, 20,000, 10,000, and then 1,000 likes, 100 comments, 1,000 shares. That type of stuff is happening on TikTok. That's not happening on Instagram. So it's been very interesting to see, how the content is performing, the short form video content is performing on TikTok versus Instagram Reels, right? So I've been paying attention to that. So again, Instagram is also a platform that has really been a copy and paste platform. They're really not inventing the wheel too much. They're just taking a lot of features from every other platform that's doing well, throwing them into Instagram. And Instagram's kind of just become this place where it's rather confusing for a lot of people. What is working, what's not working. And then the organic reach on Instagram is all but dead. It is much harder to grow your platform on Instagram. Now, the key to really growing your Instagram is how well you build your digital presence and your offline presence. Like, so I'll give you an example. You do a workshop, and your workshop is in Zoom. Let's just say it's in Zoom, right? For conversation's sake. You do a workshop, you're bringing people into Zoom. And at the end of that workshop, you're telling people to go follow your Instagram. And people, quickly jump on Instagram and go and follow you. You get more views doing that than you just creating content hoping that people just go and follow you. At least that's my experience. Let me not say that's not the case for any and everybody, right? Obviously, there are people that there are people that are going viral and whatnot, right? But from what I see, for the most part, when it comes to business owners ain't really growing on Instagram like that. They have their following, but they're not really growing at a pace. You're just not seeing that. The people who are growing at a pace on Instagram are usually people who are creating content for fun and just trying to go viral and doing all that stuff. But I'm talking about business owners, right? Business owners ain't really growing at a pace on Instagram, right? They ain't just waking up and getting 1,000 followers overnight like on TikTok. The growth on Instagram for business owners is just not there like that for a lot of the Caribbean businesses that I've seen. All right. However, the work that you do outside of Instagram ultimately is going to help grow your Instagram because people still use Instagram, right? But to grow it, all of the other things that you do. So the interviews that you do, whether it's on TV, in the newspapers, on radios, if you grow a following on TikTok, some of them may, and I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, but it could happen. The potential is there. You could grow, another social media platform and people decide to follow you on your Instagram or on another social media platform. It can happen, but typically, when people follow you on one platform, they may just follow you there because that is their platform of choice. But people can trickle in from other platforms to your Instagram, right? I have found that my growth on Instagram, I get more followers when I do workshops. I started to write for the TT Newsday. I'm getting followers because of that, or I'm getting more people. And it's funny because even when they're not following. Up to my alarm clock. Even when they're not following, people are DMing, right? They've read the article or they've seen that somebody reshared something and they're DMing me on Instagram. So Instagram is also a platform where people are reaching out. They might not even follow, but they are reaching out on Instagram, right? So that's why for me, Instagram is low on the list. It's not getting indexed by Google as yet, even though there is talks of there is talks between Google and Instagram for Google to start indexing the content on Instagram. So once that is 100%, and I see Instagram posts starting to show up on Google as a result to a query, I might rethink Instagram where it falls onto the list. But as of right now, the LinkedIn, TikTok, Pinterest are going to take, they're going to take more of a precedent over Instagram. Instagram, I'll still be there. Again, it's the main place I use for my behind the scenes content. I do a lot more behind the scenes and Instagram stories than anything else. I still love the fact that, carousels are still very good. And again, they're pushing Reels, so you could start to get some traffic via Reels if you have not done Reels as yet. I know there are people that are still running away from video. I hear you, but do what you need to do to get to a place mentally where you can get in front of the camera and start to do some video. And if you don't want to do video, you better learn you better learn how to blog. You better learn how to podcast. You better learn how to do all of the other things if you are running away from video, because ultimately the social media platforms are pushing video, whether that be a live video or whether that be short form video, but they're pushing video, right? Carousels and stuff still get a good bit of traction, but they're pushing video. They're pushing live video is still the priority for these platforms, and short form video is getting the push. So if you are running away from video, then you better learn how to blog. You better learn how to podcast. You better learn how to do something else, because you got to figure out how to compensate for you not doing video. You got to figure that out. All right. I will tell you this. You don't have to do video. You don't have to do video. You could not do any video. However, if you are not doing video in 2022, you better learn how to blog. Like, you better learn how to blog and grow a blog, because at the end of the day, blogs are still the most consumed, or web content is still the most consumed content, because anytime you jump on Google or Bing and you type in a question or query, right? What shows up? Links to websites. That's the number one thing that consumes the entire results page, is links to a website. Links to a website, your content on your website, your blog. You could have an embedded audio podcast or an embedded video on your website, but links to the content on your website is the number one thing that shows up. That is why blogs will always be the most consumed content, because the search engines get the most volume of searches, period, of any platform or space that we use. All right. So if you don't want to do video, you better learn how to blog. You better learn how to podcast, because these other mediums, podcasting, blogging, they're so viable, and they can help you offset you not doing video. But there's no way in 2022 you're not doing video, you're not blogging because you don't have a website and you don't have a podcast. There's just no way. Like, if you're just trying to thrive on Instagram with static posts, that's not going to get the job done. It's not. Bruh. It's not going to get the job done. There's no way you're not doing video and not podcasting and not blogging, and your only focus is on posting static images on Instagram or posting quotes. That's not going to get the job done, right? You gotta, if you're not doing video, you gotta go and figure out podcasting or blogging, because you gotta do one of the main forms of content. It can't just be static images, all right? So that's where Instagram fits on the totem pole for me. And the fifth platform that I'm going to be focusing on for 2022, and this is kind of by default, is Facebook. Facebook, I mean, the organic reach on a Facebook is atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. But Facebook is still the largest social media platform across the entire Caribbean. And Facebook is still one of the top platforms to do video, to do live video, right? It's one of the more versatile platforms where we can use production level streaming and stream into Facebook, and Facebook still pushes live video. Facebook also pushes events. And if you have a Facebook group, Facebook still gives you a lot of reach on Facebook groups, right? I've been toying with the idea of doing a Facebook group, like a Digipreneur Facebook group. I'm still toying with the idea. The only thing is that I just do so many other things that, you know, to be somebody who is now focusing on a group, I'm not mentally 100% there yet. Although I see the benefits and I know the benefits and I understand what Facebook is doing with groups and how they are pushing it, I'm just not there yet energetically to even begin to manage a Facebook group. However, when I start doing my live streams, my Digipreneur lives again from March, right? Somewhere in March. Facebook is one of those platforms where we get so much of our live audience, right? Facebook pushes live video. So between Facebook being the largest social media platform in the Caribbean, between me getting the majority of the viewers who watch my lives coming in from Facebook, Facebook will always be somewhere in my top 5. But because, again, low organic reach, so you're posting a lot of content, and unless you're boosting the content or you have a paid strategy on Facebook, it's hard to grow on Facebook. Facebook is the ultimate pay-to-play platform unless you are doing your Facebook groups, unless you are actually creating Facebook events and learning how those things work in the algorithm. And also you're doing your live streaming. So because live streaming is something big for me, Facebook is up there, right? Now, I didn't put YouTube. Some people might have been like, well, isn't YouTube a social media platform? I'm not classifying YouTube as a social media platform at all. But in the next episode, when I talk about digital assets that I'm focused on growing for 2022, you're going to see YouTube pop up in that discussion, right? So this one I wanted to talk about strictly the social media platforms that I am focusing on for 2022. Again, this episode wasn't too much on strategy. I really just wanted to give you guys, my perspective and reasoning and thoughts behind the platforms that I'm going to be focusing on for 2022. And within that, there are going to be, because you're getting my perspective and where my train of thought is, that can be gems for you. There are going to be some notes you guys can take, and you might look at a platform and say, okay, I didn't think of it like that. I know that for me, the big one I believe that you guys are going to take away is LinkedIn and possibly Pinterest. Pinterest, I think you guys are going to think about, but ultimately might not do because, again, it's a whole new platform. But some of you might. Some of you might start to dabble in Pinterest because it's the one social media platform, or it's the number one social media platform that drives traffic back to a website. I do believe that some of you guys might jump in on Pinterest, but I firmly believe that everybody listening is going to rethink LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is the one platform that, listening to this episode, you're going to rethink, because it is the only platform where every single decision maker for any company that you want to do business with or work for, all the decision makers are there. You can connect with them. You can engage with them. They can start to see the content you're creating and you're putting out. You can even message them and say, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've created this. This might be of interest to you, and build that relationship. LinkedIn is the only platform to do that. And that is why, to me, LinkedIn is the most, even if you're not creating content heavy on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is still the most powerful platform, social media platform to use when you are doing business. And God, if you're an employee, if you're looking for a job, like, all of the hiring managers are there. You can connect with these people directly. So again, for me, LinkedIn is the most important platform, not to grow followers, but because of who is there and how you can use it to grow your business and establish relationships. LinkedIn is the number one platform for that. So that brings an end to this episode today. All right. If you are not following me over on social media, go check out Karen Rose over on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, go and connect with me over there. I'm most active, obviously, on LinkedIn. I'm active on Instagram. You can go check out my TikTok. I'm producing a lot of content over there as well. All right. Please, if you haven't already dropped a review of the podcast, remember, the reviews help grow the Digipreneur family across the globe. So if you're listening in from Apple Podcasts or over on Spotify, if you can take some time out, drop a little review, help your boy out. You could even rate the podcast. The ratings help grow the Digipreneur family as well. It lets me know that what we're doing over in the Digipreneur podcast is relevant. It's good. You guys are enjoying it. So definitely drop a review or at least rate the podcast. That helps. And it gives me a pulse check to see, how well we are serving you guys and gals across the Caribbean and the diaspora and the outside world as well. All right. Wow, this is episode number 64. 64 episodes. We're going strong, family. We're going strong. Well, that is it from me today. Happy Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe, stay sane. Do what you need to do to protect your peace, to protect your mental health, and focus on your emotional wellness this year, because so much is happening. We need all of you guys to be at your peak. We need you at your best to be a key cog in moving the Caribbean and the diaspora forward. That's it from me, folks. Everybody, happy week. Take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Karan Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Karan Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.